Rebecca Martin, and I'm the founder of the Chicago Film Lover Exchange. And we are back for our YouTube film discussions, which I'm very excited about. This is going to be a three-part series where we're going to be talking about 3 films from 2016. First, we're going to be talking about Certain Women, then we're going to be talking about Arrival, and then we're going to be talking about Moonlight. And I want to give a shout out to Armando Maggi, since he is now the head organizer of the Chicago Film Lover Exchange. And it's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Armando, even though this is going to go up like way after his birthday. But, you know, I gotta give him a shout out.
The principal of the thing.
Yes, exactly. So this is our Certain Women discussion. Certain Women is directed by Kelly Reichardt, and I have 2 amazing co-hosts for this Certain Women discussion, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and say a little bit about themselves. Let's start with Angela.
Hello, my name is Angela Shershin. I'm a film lover here in Chicago. Met Rebecca through the Chicago Film Lover Exchange, and also working with Rebecca on another endeavor called Film Punch. It's a podcast where we watch a movie and then we discuss the film immediately afterwards to kind of get that initial rush of consciousness that you feel right after the movie, and capturing those moments. So you can find us. It's Film Punch on iTunes, and also Twitter is at Film Punch Meetup.
Yes,
right? So
that's
if you want to
correct.
catch us on social media.
Okay. Andrea.
Hi, I'm Andrea Thompson. I'm also a film lover. I'm a Milwaukeean right now, but I'm planning on moving to Chicago in a few months at the most. Thank you. Yeah, love it here. So, and I'm a film critic. I have a film site, A Reel of One's Own, and I'm also the founder and director of the Milwaukee Women's Film Festival, which will celebrate its 2nd year, September 8th through the 10th. So look us up.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Round of applause for that.
Okay. Yeah, so it's not far. Look us up, we have a GoFundMe, find it. Yeah, just what I have to do with my startup. And yeah, I also do a podcast, Leaky Tents, where
That's
me and
great.
my friend, she's already a Chicagoan, Heather, we discuss the failed tentpole movies of yesteryear. So we discussed Reign of Fire, Cutthroat Island recently, and the 2001 version of Planet of the Apes, and Queen of the Damned, which I was just thinking of. And also, one last
shirt shout out.
Yes. This shirt, I like my politics thigh high. Shout out to Laura Dern. You buy one of these shirts, you know, she was the one who was on Fox News, and he insulted her by saying her political writings are less valid because she also wrote about Ariana Grande's thigh high boots. So in response, they made these shirts. I like my politics thigh high. 100% of the proceeds go to Planned Parenthood in Tucker Carlson's name. So
Awesome. Another round of applause. That's great. So we're going to get into the discussion part now. I wanted to give a brief summary of Certain Women. So obviously that came out last year, 2016, directed by Kelly Reichardt, and it's the story of like 3 intersecting stories of 3 different women. It starts out with Laura, played by Laura Dern, and she's a lawyer, and she's dealing with a client that just won't leave her alone, and she gets in a crazy hostage situation with him, and then it kind of ends there for the first part, and then we go into Michelle Williams' character, Gina, and she's kind of I don't want to say hard ass, but kind of like a hardcore don't mess with me woman, which is kind of cool, and she's all about her building. So we'll get into that. And then my personal favorite story is Lily Gladstone's character, who plays a rancher, and it's kind of a love story between her and Kristen Stewart's character, Beth. And yeah, I mean, that's probably my favorite, just because I feel like Lily Gladstone's character is kind of like the heart of the film, but that's my opinion. But I wanted to start out, because we're talking about 2016 films, to talk about why certain women is important for 2016. And, as a time capsule, if we were gonna 10 years from now, look back at this film in 2016, what does it mean? Why is it important from that year? We're gonna be talking about other things too, but I thought we could start with exploring that. So, any thoughts?
Well, first of all, the election,
Yes.
when Trump called Hillary Clinton in the debate such a nasty woman.
Yeah.
People stuck up for her by photoshopping the poster for this movie, certain nasty women, and photoshopping her.
Really?
onto it.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Wow. It was pretty awesome. So
Okay.
It's inevitably going to get remembered for that.
Okay. Yeah, that's
I mean,
cool.
as you said, we can't talk about 2016 without talking about the election and the primary that led up to this.
Especially
And
since this is all about women.
yeah, and this not only was this movie about women, this is also about women who live very firmly within Trump country, for lack of a better term. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know Montana was a red state. And you can kind of see the town that these women live in, it's all powered by industry. And it's all those forgotten jobs, those forgotten working class jobs that a lot of the election was about. And it's these women being inserted into that environment. And I guess just for me, especially Laura Dern's storyline, it was so male-centric. This movie didn't pass the Bechdel test until almost halfway through the movie, which is interesting because it was centered around women.
Yeah, well, she's a lawyer in a male profession in a deeply red state, deeply conservative Trump country, you said. So,
And I want to talk about that part where with Laura Dern, when she goes in the hostage situation, her client, is wanting her to come in while he's got the gun on the Samoan guy or whatever, and just the way the cops treat her, it's an assumption, we're just gonna put you, they don't give her a choice, and it's just, I feel sorry, go ahead, were you gonna say something?
no, go ahead.
Okay, I feel that whole part is her being forced into stuff that she doesn't want to do, but she just kind of goes along with it, and it's kind of it doesn't seem she's kind of steering her world, because she's I don't want to say in a man's world, but she's kind of for instance with the lawyer part where, when she goes to see the personal injury lawyer guy as second opinion, and then the guy's just fine, okay, and then he gets so emotional with Laura's character. He doesn't really treat her professionally. He treats her some kind of
She's meant there to be emotional support rather than that professional opinion.
I thought the part where the police kind of assumed she'd go in there was a bit of an exaggeration, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't born there, but I grew up in Wyoming, not far from there. And
Okay.
That was the part, really the only part where she was treated that felt unnatural.
Got it.
It seemed more likely that they'd be more paternalistic, well, in a different way.
Right.
They'd say, oh, we should send a woman in there alone,
That's true.
that kind of thing.
I thought the whole hostage scene was interesting because it seemed like it was, he had a gun in there and they were just it was so laissez-faire, let us know that big man's
we'll
okay.
give you a call, see if you're alive, it's funny. And then,
Yeah, like Fargo or something.
Right. And something I noticed, visually in the beginning, when after the train part, you see her in that hotel room with the guy, and she is I don't know why this stood out to me, but she's got black socks that she puts on, and then he's got kind of tights. Did you guys notice that in the beginning?
The long johns.
Yeah, but it looked like he was putting on tights, which I was I don't know, it was white tights.
That parallels what's happening in his storyline.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the way that scene opened, because that was the first scene, it kind of it seemed very feminine, very female, because that's how a lot of female-directed movies open, it seems, or TV series open, Queen Sugar, Ava DuVernay's series, that also opened with post-love scene and very intimately going over the woman's body without demeaning her. Same with this one. We see the little details, the post love scene, I'll just say for lack of a better word. So
Okay.
it was just very different from how men usually open their movies, and like how Atlanta opened. That opened with violence, and Queen Sugar, who opened at the same time, opened with that more gentler scene.
Right, and both of those shows I still need to see, and I've heard such good things about. So moving on to the next part with Michelle Williams' character, I think she's hilarious. Like, she's always says she's going running and then she's just smoking, you know. It's an interesting...
It's a secret habit that she's hiding. Everyone, like, all these characters have secret habits that they're hiding.
Yeah, it really shows how the loneliness out there, and how women, just because of their position, they're lonelier than most.
Yeah, no, this is true.
And I should say, I did not, so I guess we should be explicit, her husband's the one having the affair with Laura Dern, and I did not realize that until the second watch of the movie.
Yeah. So understated.
It is, and I think when I watched it the first time, by the time I got to Michelle Williams, I forgot what he looked like. But then when I got to the second rewatch, I was like, oh, that
makes sense. Yeah, and the whole thing when Gina, Michelle Williams' character, and her husband go visit the guy that has like no memory on things. What is it, Alzheimer's?
A fall.
Yeah. So
He can just be senile too. He said he was 76.
Yeah,
So
but
he's
he
getting up
kept
there.
saying things that didn't connect, you know? And so I'm curious what you guys thought about that scene where you know, they're trying to convince, or she's trying to convince him to give the sandstone to her. I mean, what did you guys think about how that played out?
Just so familiar, because, you know, she was trying to placate, and, you know, before she said to her husband, he trusts you, you know how to talk to him. He's like, what's to know? And it's just something that I think I found that guys take such for granted, like the way they speak to each other. You can see that a lot of times, if they're, admittedly, if they see the other guy as the right kind of guy, there's kind of this somehow mutual recognition, mutual respect there.
Okay.
That, while women's bonding are more due to kind of a shared.
So you're talking
vulnerability.
about the guy, the older guy, and the husband, how they were kind of bonding about like music and stuff. Like,
even though she was trying to be more accommodating, because she, of course, she was the one who felt guilty.
Okay.
She was the one who was trying to give him the most fair deal when he said, "I'll give it to you," who offered to give him money for it.
Right.
And it still didn't matter, because her husband was the man. He was the one he naturally looked to. And
yeah, you're right on that. Especially with like the business card in the end, he's like, oh, so she works for you? And he's like, no, I work for her, so.
And there was the moment when she asked directly, we want to buy the sandstone off of you, and he completely diverted the conversation to the husband, completely deferred to him. But overall, I thought with that storyline, I thought it was actually the two characters, they were kind of switching gender roles in a sense.
Yeah.
Where Michelle Williams is the stereotypical, like, she's the boss, she needs to get the sandstone for her project. And I felt in that interaction, she was kind of almost like hard, like the hard one, which being a woman doesn't translate as well. And he was like trying to take the softer approach. And I even noticed, like, in the beginning when they're driving up to it, you know, she said she will ask him, you know, can you ask Albert for the sandstone? And then in the conversation, she completely just goes for it. So I don't know, that was kind of interesting how they...
Well, yeah, I was going to say, when they were in that living room and she was sitting there, just looking at her face, you could just see what she was thinking in her head, like, okay, let's get the sandstone, let's get going here.
It was a transactional moment.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's amazing that this is such a quiet movie, yet it features no voiceover, but you can tell what
all in her
thinking.
face, like, and
every character's face.
Exactly. And that's the thing about this film. I feel like it's one of those gems that is kind of like covered by dirt in a sense. I know that sounds weird, but you gotta like really like pay attention to the film, and then you kind of see like the gem part, or the beauty of the film rise through. I mean, that's how I saw it after a couple viewings. So I guess
going back to your initial question about how this is a a capsule for 2016. Another big political event was Standing Rock, and I was just thinking about, I mean, so in Laura Dern's story, there is her in the mall in Billings, and there's the Native Americans doing a traditional dance. And on some levels, I wondered if there was a parallel between the sandstone being moved from its location to like the Native Americans being displaced as well.
Oh yeah,
Definitely. It was good. I thought it was amazing that this film acknowledged that, even in passing like that.
Right, for sure. So I want to talk about my favorite story, my favorite last part. So Lily Gladstone, I love her. Like, I hope to see more of her in films.
Yeah, unlike the other actresses, she hasn't really been anything much since this, I don't think.
Right.
There's a whole other discussion about that, probably because of her race.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. And what's interesting, she's the only one without a name. Like, she doesn't have a name in the film.
Well, in the original story, she was a guy. They switched the genders.
Really?
That's interesting.
Oh, so this is, I should have known this, but it's based on a book, or?
It's based on all three are based on short stories by this author.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Odd name, I'm probably mispronouncing it. Mail Malloy.
Okay.
Mailing?
Okay.
You get the idea.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I kind of like that they had a woman for that character. I mean, she just, talking about face, like how she looks at Beth, Kristen Stewart's character, is so, like, she's so in love with her. Like, she's so transformed by her. And it's like the one thing that, like, has kind of brought her a little bit alive in her life, because her life is really mundane. I mean, she seems to be happy with what she's doing with the horses and taking care of, like, the farm and everything, which I was like, that's so badass. Like, I love that she would just, like, it was just her taking care of all these horses and the farm. But she had no relationships.
She was just lonely.
Yeah.
She was doing what she loved, but it was isolating.
Exactly.
Yeah, and those little details, like just when she was, just that one 30-second scene when she was staring at a bulb in a ceiling.
Yes.
You don't mind paying attention to those details. Somehow this director, Reichardt, makes it so compelling. In any other film, under any other director, I think that would be boring.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it was after that point that she went to the school, right? Because she was feeling lonely, and
she saw people going in, and then she saw Kristen Stewart.
I think that's great.
She didn't just love her because she was lonely. She felt a real connection with her, I think.
Yeah, when I was watching that, I was almost wondering, like, is she in love with Kristen Stewart, or is this just like a really intense friendship that she's just longing for? She's longing for a friendship with someone that, you know, isn't dependent on her feeding them and can speak English back to her.
Yeah, that's true. I actually think she was really in love with her. I mean, I feel like a love like that kind of like makes you do things that don't
like
really
drive
make
4
sense.
hours.
Yeah. So that was the heartbreaking thing. I mean, they had those. That was the thing about when they went to the diner every time afterwards. You could tell that, you know, Kristen Stewart, or Beth, was putting up with her company, like you know, like, oh,
well, I felt like that was kind of unsure. She seemed to enjoy talking to her, if only for someone to listen to her about the drive and everything.
Right. Yeah, I think she enjoyed it, but she wasn't like in love with her. Like, she was just kind of like, oh, we're pals while I'm here, but I'm not gonna like stay in touch, you know. So
you didn't feel like that was in doubt throughout the movie?
I mean, how I saw it was like a one-way relationship, like in terms
if we take the movie at its face value, they only had 3 interactions, so they only knew each other for a week and a half.
Right.
Because they met the Tuesday,
Thursday,
and then the last Tuesdays when she took her on the horse. So I mean, to have someone drive 4 hours to meet you after you've only known them for a week and a half, that's probably a bit intimidating.
That's why why I think it's like love, or maybe some deep infatuation. Because even when they were on the horse, like when she was sitting in the front, like Lily Gladstone, she just had this look on her face, like she was just like smiling, like oh, I got my lady on back, you know, like she was just like so proud of like being on that horse with her, and that's like the only place she wanted to be. And I think she might have gotten confused by her feelings for her and her getting on the horse, that was something that was real.
And maybe that was confusing for Kristen Stewart because, you know, stereotypically girls want the knight in shining armor on the horse, and that literally happened. But Kristen Stewart's character is all about building herself up. Her mother was the grocery store clerk, her sister works in hospital laundry, but she has a real job. She's a lawyer. Yeah. And so she's working for herself. She has a good job.
She's looking to get away from that environment, away from that kind of relationship where she has to be taken care of so much, I think. But yeah, I think the fact that their interactions were so limited was part of what gave it greater power, what kept it so unsure. If they'd been able to spend more time together, I think.
It would have died out probably.
Or it would have deepened into she would have settled for friendship probably.
It's true.
Because.
Yeah, no, I see that. And then there was that one part where she was talking about like selling shoes, like how she's so glad that she didn't have to sell shoes. And for some reason that really impacted Lily Gladstone's character. Like she's like, why did you say that? Like you didn't, and you know, maybe that was a way for her to get to know her more. But I don't know. There was some deep connection there, but it was definitely, I feel, more like one-sided. But now I just want to talk about kind of like how they all interweave, the different stories. All the films I chose for us to talk about have to do with like some kind of different kind of plot structure. And I'm interested in what you think the purpose is of these three stories interweaving together. I mean, I know it's based on short stories, but as a whole, what do you think is coming together to like tell us?
Well, I think Lily Gladstone was the heart of it, and I think Laura Dern was kind of like the anchor that kind of kept a loose connection. I think it just wanted to show in a very quiet way, not dramatically or hysterically, just the position these women were in just by virtue of being women, and how that affected their lives, how people saw them, treated them, because in the hostage situation, like, the cops seemed more concerned with, this is a good old boy who got screwed, you know, he did great work on my house, you know, let's make sure he gets out of this okay.
Yeah, there's just like certain things that tie throughout the whole thing. Like I noticed burgers were a big thing. I mean, Montana meat, I guess. And then
it was the compare and contrast between even just within Montana, the different sizes of town and how lively like Belgrade is. Small, people were mistaking it for Belgrade, which I double checked on Google Maps. I'm not from Montana, but I was like, you know, all these places, you know, exist, and you know, the relationships made sense. Belgrade is closer to Livingston. Belfry's a smaller town. Livingston is larger, and you can tell more lively. Right. So I think it's like a capsule of what it is to be in that, you know, whatever, maybe 200-mile stretch of, I forget the name of that highway in Montana.
Yeah, that's something I experienced growing up in Wyoming too. Like people don't seem to comprehend the sheer space between all that empty space that exists there. And when I came back as a kid, I moved out there very young and came back like as like a high school guy. And we were driving between towns, and I was prepared for this really long drive. And we got to the next town in half an hour, and I remember being shocked, saying, the towns are this close together.
Did you like the little jab at Wyoming at the end?
Yeah, with the jail. That was funny. I mean, not funny, I'm sorry.
It's kind of funny because I always thought of Montana growing up as gorgeous, but the more kind of lawless, I should say, because I don't know if this is true, but for a while there was no speed limit there. Drivers were just asked to drive at a reasonable speed, so it seemed more remote.
But you're right, it is gorgeous, and I loved that contrast between like the beautiful mountain and then like the industrial train, and how Livingston has that constant train noise. It's a constant reminder of the industry that's like pumping the blood of that local economy.
And will probably die soon.
Well, maybe not the train, because people like Amazon.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and then something I wanted to point out was animals. Like, I thought animals played a key role in all the parts. Like, the first part, the dog with Laura. The second part, that bird where she's like, I'm just fine, you know, that little noise. And then the horses.
And the dog.
And the dog.
Yeah. It's a very quirky dog.
The one in the third story?
One,
Yeah.
Dogs, a lot of dogs work out there. Like some dogs, they won't get adopted because if they're hurt, that means they can't work. They can't go up on the mountain with their owners and stuff. So yeah, nature's scary out there.
Yeah.
And I think I read this movie. It's dedicated to Lucy, which I think was the director's dog who passed away.
Was she in her previous film, Wendy and Lucy?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know who Lucy was, so that's interesting. So we're gonna start tying things down now. Did you guys have any last thoughts you wanted to add about the film, or something that stayed with you after it?
I think the only director, it just made me think of I'm probably mispronouncing his name, Derek Cianfrance, something like that. He did Blue Valentine and The Place Beyond the Pines.
Yeah.
I think his films are the only ones that have made these small details so compelling. And she makes them compelling in a completely different feminine way, in the way he does it in a masculine way. So I just really appreciate that she's continuing that, because I haven't seen all her films. I loved her previous films, Meek's Cutoff.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've also been flashing my Wyoming credentials. Flashing is probably the wrong way to put it, but flaunting.
That's a better word.
Yeah, never mind. I've been relating my Wyoming credentials, and Meek's Cutoff is another thing with these little details where these people were on the Oregon Trail, and she completely explodes the myths of the frontierman, the mountain man.
I love that. I'm gonna have to see that movie. Sounds great.
The Native American who wasn't. It's rare not to have a Native American character sexualized or fetishized or mysticized in any way, and he wasn't. So yeah.
Have any final thoughts?
I mean, speaking of other works that I thought of while watching this, and maybe it's just because Laura Dern was in this, but I kept thinking back to Wild. And and I mean, there's still some similar themes. Wild, part of it takes place in rural Minnesota, and other part takes place with Sheldstray, actually on the Pacific Crest Trail. But I kept thinking back to this one line that is attributed to Laura Dern's character, but it was actually a quote by Sheldstray's mother, is talking about sunsets. Every day you have a moment to put yourself in the way of beauty, and just seeing that scenery, I just kept thinking of that quote, that these people in their world, they're in the moment of beauty every day, but again, they just kind of get so encapsulated into their world that they're kind of missing the beautiful scenery around them.
Right.
Yeah, you're around that long enough, you take it for granted, I guess.
Exactly.
Do you guys think this was sometimes too quiet, that it might have worked better as a short, almost?
I mean, you gotta have patience for it. I feel like if you're in a mode where you just want to a jam and flick that's going to get you through something quickly, this isn't the movie. It's definitely one that you have to let yourself simmer into. I was fine with the full feature, but I think it could play well as a short too. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really the only criticism I had while watching it, really.
It just seemed a little long? Okay.
Just some of the details, even good as they were, they kind of felt repetitive. I'm like, okay, I get it. Can you?
Okay.
Move on.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So thank you guys for joining me for part 1 for Certain Women.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. And we'll see you for part 2.